The US middle class is facing financial struggles as their purchasing power is rapidly declining due to the severe cost of living crisis. Even those who once felt financially secure are now having to make difficult choices between essential expenses like food, utilities, and healthcare. The middle-income workers no longer enjoy the same economic stability as their parents did in the past. They continue to grapple with rising costs of education, entertainment, energy, groceries, and other everyday necessities, while their real wage growth stagnates. Living conditions are steadily worsening for this group, and they can no longer afford many items that were once within their reach. So without any delay, let's see 20 things that the middle class can no longer afford. 20. Eating healthy foods. We all know that healthier food items tend to be more expensive than unhealthy, processed options. Organic fruits, vegetables, meats, and other whole, unprocessed foods can be anywhere from 10 to 30% more costly than their highly processed counterparts that are full of preservatives, added sugars, and unhealthy fats. Even basic, non-organic produce like apples, broccoli, and tomatoes are now about 12% higher in price compared to just a year ago. This significant price differential is causing a real challenge for middle-class families who are struggling to afford nutritious foods that support a healthy lifestyle. Consequently, many middle-income households are now eating in an increasingly unhealthy manner, frequently opting for processed, high-calorie snacks and meals since they simply cannot fit the higher-priced, unprocessed, and more wholesome alternatives into their tight budgets. 19. Brand name items. With household budgets feeling the squeeze, middle-class families are having to make difficult decisions about their spending, including cutting back on brand name items in favor of generic or store-brand products. Retail sales data shows a 28% decline in the purchase of well-known brand name items in just the month of July, as middle-income shoppers scramble to afford even the simple luxuries of life. Families are forgoing the usually higher-priced brand-name laundry detergents, snack foods, personal care items, and other consumer goods in order to allocate more of their limited funds toward essential needs, like housing, utilities, and of course, food. This trend is expected to continue as long as inflationary pressures and economic uncertainty persist. 18. Healthcare. On average, Americans spend $12,130 on medical care per year. That's a 10% increase from 2019 levels, reflecting the rising costs of healthcare in the United States. In total, Americans owe a staggering $4.1 trillion in healthcare debt, a financial burden that continues to grow and weigh heavily on families. This crisis is particularly acute for middle-income Americans, who are increasingly forced to make difficult choices between paying for essential needs like food and utilities or seeking necessary medical care. A report published by Feeding America revealed that a troubling 66% of households say they have to choose between putting food on their tables and heating their homes or looking for medical assistance. Even more concerning, 31% of these households have to make that choice each and every month, highlighting the persistent and pervasive nature of this dilemma. The COVID-19 pandemic has only exacerbated these challenges, as many have lost jobs and employer-provided healthcare coverage, further straining household budgets and access to medical services. 17. Going to the dentist. The lack of affordable dental care is another significant issue facing Americans. Over one-third of the U.S. population, or about 108 million people, do not have dental insurance coverage, and even those who do often struggle to get the care they need, according to the CDC. Dental insurance plans typically only cover 50% of the more expensive procedures, such as crowns and bridges, leaving patients with large out-of-pocket co-payments that can be prohibitively expensive. As a result, many middle-class Americans are forced to delay or even forego some of these essential dental treatments in an effort to save on costs. This lack of access to preventative and restorative dental care has significant consequences, as health data shows that 1 in 4 adults between the ages of 20 and 64 have untreated dental caries or cavities. Poor oral health can lead to a host of other medical problems, further compounding the healthcare challenges faced by Americans. Addressing the systemic barriers to affordable and accessible dental care is crucial for improving overall health outcomes and reducing the financial burdens on families. 16. Childcare. The rising cost of raising a child has placed a significant financial burden on middle-class families across the United States. According to a recent CNBC analysis, the estimated expenses of child rearing from birth through age 17 in a middle-income family has reached a staggering $286,000 in 2022. This represents a dramatic increase compared to previous decades, with childcare costs outpacing the rate of inflation by an alarming 5% annually. Childcare expenses now account for a substantial 20% of the annual earnings of an average median income family. This highlights a concerning situation where families are being forced to allocate a disproportionate amount of their resources towards childcare, leaving them with fewer financial means to address other essential needs, such as housing, retirement planning, and savings. Researchers from the Center for American Progress have emphasized the gravity of this issue, underscoring the detrimental impact it has on the overall financial security and well-being of middle-class households. The skyrocketing cost of childcare has emerged as a significant challenge for many families, forcing them to make difficult trade-offs and sacrifices in order to accommodate these expenses. The burden is particularly acute for single-parent households and families with multiple children, as the financial strain can quickly become overwhelming. As the cost of living continues to rise, the struggle to balance childcare expenses with other essential financial obligations has become an increasingly pressing concern for middle-class Americans. 15. Going to the movies. The impact of the rising cost of living has also extended to leisure and entertainment activities, such as going to the movies. Over the past decade, the average price of a movie ticket has doubled, reaching $9.57 in 2021. In many theaters and large cities, the price has even jumped to over $15 per ticket. When factoring in the cost of popcorn, candy, and other concessions, the total price to see a movie can easily exceed $20 per person. This dramatic spike in movie ticket prices has forced middle-class Americans to significantly reduce their spending on leisure and entertainment activities. Faced with the rising costs of everyday necessities, such as food, housing, and transportation, families are finding it increasingly difficult to allocate funds for recreational pursuits like going to the movies. The financial burden of these increased costs has led many middle-class individuals to reevaluate their spending priorities, opting to forgo or limit their movie-going experiences in order to direct their limited resources towards more essential expenses. The combination of skyrocketing childcare costs and the escalating prices of leisure activities has placed a considerable strain on the financial well-being of middle-class families. As they navigate these challenges, many are forced to make tough decisions and trade-offs to ensure their basic needs are met, often at the expense of their ability to enjoy recreational activities and maintain a balanced lifestyle. This situation highlights the growing economic pressures facing the middle class and the need for comprehensive solutions to address these pressing financial challenges. 14. Holiday gifts. A recent survey conducted by the online financial services website One revealed that a significant percentage of middle-class families are struggling to afford all the holiday gifts they would like to give this year. The survey found that 46% of these families simply cannot afford to purchase all the gifts they want to provide for their loved ones during the holiday season. The majority of the survey respondents reported earning annual household incomes between $50,000 and $99,000, while just over 17% earned between $100,000 and $124,999. This indicates that even families with incomes that would typically be considered solidly middle class are facing financial constraints when it comes to holiday gift giving. The survey also uncovered concerning findings about the measures middle-class families are taking to be able to afford holiday gifts. It found that 58% of respondents have plans to take on debt, such as using credit cards, in order to purchase gifts for their loved ones this holiday season. Nearly one-third of those surveyed said they expect to spend between $500 and $750 on their credit cards just to cover the cost of holiday presents. This data suggests that the financial strain of the holiday gift-giving season is leading many middle-class families to take on potentially risky debt that could have long-term repercussions. The inability to comfortably afford holiday gifts is clearly a significant concern for a large segment of the middle class in the United States. 13. Taking sick days. The United States stands apart from other developed nations in that it does not have a nationwide policy guaranteeing paid sick leave for workers. As a result, many Americans find themselves forced to choose between prioritizing their financial well-being or their health when they fall ill. According to the Institute for Women's Policy Research, a staggering 40% of middle-class working women deliberately avoid missing work when they are sick, not wanting to suffer the financial consequences of unpaid time off. This represents a concerning trend, as it means that a significant portion of the middle-class workforce is potentially exposing themselves and their co-workers to illness due to an inability to take time off to recover. The lack of a comprehensive paid sick leave policy in the United States has created a challenging dynamic for middle-class workers who simply cannot afford to forego their paychecks when sickness strikes. This issue speaks to the broader challenges facing the middle class, who often find themselves having to make difficult trade-offs between their health and their financial security. 12. New vehicles. The past couple of years have seen a staggering rise in the prices of new vehicles, putting them out of reach for many middle-class workers and families. According to the latest data from Kelley Blue Book, the average price for a new car or truck has skyrocketed to an unprecedented $48,182. This represents a significant jump from previous years, driven by a combination of factors including supply chain disruptions, semiconductor chip shortages, and heightened consumer demand. As the economy has started to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, the steep increase in new vehicle prices, coupled with interest rates that have also trended upwards, has made it increasingly difficult for middle-income Americans to afford a new car or truck. The average middle-class worker in the United States earns around $43,350 per year, while a typical two-income family brings in roughly $130,000 annually. However, even for these households, taking on a $30,000 or $40,000 auto loan can represent an unsustainable financial burden, consuming a disproportionately large share of their monthly budget. As Mike Zante, the managing editor of aptly noted, just because someone can technically manage the monthly payment on a new vehicle doesn't necessarily mean it's a prudent financial decision. With the rising costs of housing, food, healthcare, and other essential expenses, middle-class families have precious little room in their budgets to accommodate such a significant automotive purchase. 11. Everyday expenses. The challenges facing middle-class households extend far beyond the realm of new vehicle affordability. A recent study released by the United Way Alice Project found that a staggering 51 million households in the United States, or 43% of all households, are unable to afford a basic monthly budget that covers the essentials such as housing, food, childcare, healthcare, transportation, and even a basic cell phone plan. This financial strain is being exacerbated by the rapid rise in inflation, which is eroding the purchasing power of consumers and making it increasingly difficult for families to make ends meet. As real wages fail to keep pace with the escalating costs of goods and services, middle-class households are finding themselves stretched thin, struggling to maintain their standard of living and provide for their basic needs. The combination of soaring new vehicle prices, rising interest rates, and the broader inflationary pressures affecting everyday expenses has created a perfect storm of financial challenges for the American middle class. Addressing these issues will require a multifaceted approach, involving policy interventions, targeted assistance programs, and a concerted effort to improve the economic security and well-being of hard-working families across the country. 10. Marriage. 2. Getting married is becoming a luxury that many middle-class households can no longer afford. Even though most people tend to postpone their marriage to a later age until they've achieved a certain degree of financial stability, nowadays, many 30-year-old couples are skipping marriage due to the rising costs. According to data from the Knot to Get Married, U.S. couples have to spend, on average, $28,000. That's why many middle-class households are having to put their wedding plans on hold. The high cost of weddings is largely driven by the pressure to have an elaborate and expensive ceremony with lavish decorations, gourmet catering, and high-end attire for the bride and groom. Additionally, the cost of venues, photographers, and other vendors has been steadily increasing, making it increasingly difficult for couples on a middle-class budget to afford the wedding of their dreams. As a result, some couples are opting for more low-key, intimate ceremonies, while others are delaying marriage altogether until they can save up enough for the big day. 9. Divorce. On an inflation-adjusted basis, the cost to litigate a divorce in the U.S. today is more than triple what it was 50 years ago. In 1970, the average cost of divorce was $5,000. Today, former couples can spend up to $17,000, and those who have kids can end up paying over $30,000, Pew Research reports. The high cost of divorce is primarily due to the complexity of the legal process, which often involves multiple court appearances, negotiations over child custody and support, division of assets, and other financial arrangements. Additionally, the rise in the cost of legal fees, court costs, and other associated expenses has contributed to the increasing financial burden of divorce. For many middle-class families, the prospect of a costly and drawn-out divorce can be a significant deterrent to ending an unhappy marriage, leading some couples to stay together despite relationship difficulties. 8. Miss a paycheck. In theory, middle-class owners differ from low-income owners because they don't live paycheck to paycheck. But in reality, over 60% of the U.S. population, or approximately 157 million adults, are currently living in a hand-to-mouth situation. This means that even a small financial setback, such as an unexpected medical bill or car repair, can have a significant impact on their ability to make ends meet. For many middle-class families, the loss of even a single paycheck can be disastrous, leading to missed bill payments, the use of credit cards to cover expenses, and a general sense of financial insecurity. This precarious financial situation is often exacerbated by the high cost of living, stagnant wages, and the increasing burden of debt, including student loans and mortgages. As a result, many middle-class households are living on the edge. One unexpected expense, away from financial ruin. 7. Vacations. According to a recent Statista survey conducted right before the summer season, most middle-class households in America are finding it increasingly difficult to afford going on vacation without making significant financial sacrifices. The survey found that today, roughly 52% of middle-income households say they have to give up purchasing big-ticket items, such as new electronics, appliances, or furniture, in order to be able to set aside funds for a vacation getaway. Additionally, at least 47% of middle-income Americans report that they have to eliminate or severely cut back on other forms of entertainment and leisure activities like dining out, attending cultural events, or partaking in hobbies so that they can save up enough to afford a vacation. An even larger proportion, 43% of middle-class households, go so far as to avoid spending on basic necessary items like new shoes, clothing, or household essentials in order to free up money to spend time away with their friends and family. This trend is indicative of the growing financial pressures and constraints facing the American middle class, who are being forced to make difficult trade-offs and prioritize vacation time over other important expenses and lifestyle activities. As the costs of living continue to rise, particularly for essential goods and services, middle-income families are finding it increasingly challenging to balance the desire for leisure and respite with the need to maintain financial stability and meet their basic needs. 6. Live entertainment. According to data from Statistic Brain, the average cost of a concert ticket in the United States reached $108.20 in 2022. Similarly, the team marketing report's Fan Cost Index, which calculates the average cost for a family of 4 to attend a live sporting event, found that in 2021, a Major League Baseball game cost a family around $512 on average. This year, the average cost per person to attend a National Football League game has increased even further, climbing to over $1,346. These figures clearly demonstrate that live entertainment experiences, whether concerts, professional sports games, or other ticketed events, have become prohibitively expensive for many middle-class families. The skyrocketing costs of these forms of live entertainment have effectively priced out a significant portion of the population, limiting access and making it extremely challenging for many households to enjoy such leisure activities on a regular basis. This trend not only restricts the cultural and social experiences available to middle-income Americans, but also has broader implications for the entertainment industry as they struggle to maintain a customer base that can affordably access their offerings. As the costs of live events continue to rise, it will be increasingly important for both providers and consumers to find creative solutions to make these experiences more accessible and attainable for the average American family. 5. Emergency savings. Having a financial cushion to fall back on is essential to ensure economic security, especially in these times of high inflation and unpredictable economic conditions. However, as the cost of living soars due to rising prices for essentials like housing, food, and healthcare, fewer middle-class workers can afford to put some money aside for emergencies. This leaves them vulnerable to unexpected expenses like medical bills, car repairs, or job loss, which can quickly deplete their savings and push them into debt. A recent Bankrate poll found that only 1 in 7 middle-class households have at least 6 months' worth of emergency savings, which is the recommended amount to cover basic living expenses in case of a sudden financial crisis. Over 25% of middle-class families have no emergency savings at all, living paycheck to paycheck with no financial safety net. And the remaining households may have a small to moderate amount of savings, but not nearly enough to cover 6 months of expenses, leaving them one unexpected bill away from financial distress. 4. Retirement savings. In addition to the lack of emergency savings, data released by the research group Gallup showed that millions of middle-class workers can no longer afford to save for their retirement. In fact, 59% of respondents said that the main reason why they don't save for retirement is simply because they don't have the money to do so, as their budgets are already stretched thin, covering daily living costs. This is a troubling trend, as it means that a large portion of the middle class may not have enough funds to support themselves when they can no longer work. In fact, around 20% of middle-class Americans aged 65 and older do not have anything saved for retirement at all. Of those, 61% worry that they will not have enough money to be able to finally stop working and enjoy their golden years, potentially having to delay retirement or take on part-time jobs to make ends meet. 3. To pay off debt. The middle-class debt load has been growing at an alarming rate, far outpacing the growth in their incomes. This has left many hard-working families struggling to make ends meet each month and juggle their various financial obligations. According to a detailed analysis by MoneyZine back in 1980, the average consumer debt per person was $1,540, which amounted to just 7.3% of the typical household's income of $21,100. However, fast forward to 2022, and the picture looks drastically different. Consumer debt has skyrocketed to $58,600 per person, which now represents an astounding 60% of the average household income of $97,026. This means that debt has increased nearly 500% faster than incomes have over the past 4 decades. The reasons behind this debt explosion are manifold, from the rising costs of living and healthcare to the easy availability of credit. Regardless of the causes, the end result is that middle-class families are drowning in financial obligations, making it increasingly difficult for them to save, invest, or even enjoy a decent standard of living. Many are forced to make tough choices, like picking up extra jobs or delaying major life milestones just to stay afloat each month. 2. Go to college. In addition to the burden of consumer debt, the middle class has also been grappling with the ever-escalating costs of higher education. With the average student loan debt now standing at a staggering $39,351, obtaining a college degree has become an immense financial challenge for many aspiring students from middle-class backgrounds. Over the past decade, from 2010 to 2020, the average student loan debt balance has risen by a staggering 97%. This means that today, middle-class families often find it harder to get their loan applications approved compared to previous years. The implications of this are dire. For millions of middle-class students, the dream of a college education and the promise of a brighter future may be slipping out of reach. The skyrocketing costs of tuition fees and living expenses have placed a significant financial strain on middle-class households. Many are forced to make difficult choices, such as taking on multiple jobs, delaying retirement savings, or even foregoing education altogether, just to manage the mounting student loan burden. This immense financial pressure not only impacts the students themselves, but also their families, who often feel compelled to sacrifice their own financial well-being to support their children's educational aspirations. 1. Hate their homes. This winter, with the current rapidly rising prices for energy, more and more people are threatened with so-called energy poverty. This emerging crisis is causing significant financial strain and distress for a growing segment of the population. New estimates suggest that around 1/4 of the US population is already spending more than 10% of their net income on energy. This includes the cost of electricity, natural gas, heating oil, and other fuels needed to power and heat their homes. People from households that exceed this 10% threshold are considered to be in the energy poor group, experts note. This represents a dramatic increase compared to previous years. Last year, less than 10% of the population faced energy poverty. However, over the past 12 months, the proportion of energy poor has risen by more than 15 percentage points. This means an additional 15% of Americans have joined the ranks of the energy poor, unable to afford the basic necessities of heating and powering their homes. The reasons behind this surge in energy poverty are manifold. Soaring inflation, supply chain disruptions, geopolitical tensions, and other macroeconomic factors have all contributed to the skyrocketing costs of electricity, natural gas, and other home energy sources. Many households, especially those with low or fixed incomes, are struggling to keep up with these rapidly escalating expenses, often having to choose between heating their homes and affording other basic necessities. The implications of this growing energy poverty crisis are far-reaching. Families forced to divert a significant portion of their budgets to energy bills may have to cut back on spending for food, healthcare, education, and other essential goods and services. This can have cascading effects on both individual and community well-being, leading to increased financial insecurity, health issues, and social inequalities. Policymakers and community organizations are scrambling to address this emerging challenge, exploring various strategies to provide relief and support to the energy poor.